Welcome to Learn with Lili. Today we are starting with your Long Menu Images, a comprehensive course in English for Class 4 students, the last chapter, and it is Chapter 14, The Fifth Golden Ticket. Word focus. Ticket. It is a printed piece of paper that allows us to travel on a particular vehicle or watch a play or a film at a theater. Cross-connect. To be ticketed means to be given a notice for paying a fine for breaking the rules and regulations. Now let's start reading the chapter. Charlie burst through the front door, shouting, "Mother! Mother! Mother!" Mrs. Bucket was in the old grandparents' room serving them their evening soup. "Mother!" yelled Charlie, rushing in on them like a hurricane. "Look, I've got it! The last golden ticket! It's mine! I bought 2 bars of chocolate and the second one had the golden ticket. And there were crowds of people all around me wanting to see it, and I ran all the way home, and here I am. It's the 5th golden ticket, Mother, and I found it." Mrs. Bucket simply stood and stared while the 4 old grandparents dropped their spoons with a clatter and froze against their pillows. For about 10 seconds, there was absolute silence in the room. Nobody dared to speak or move. It was a magical moment. Then, very softly, Grandpa Joe said, "You're pulling our legs, Charlie, aren't you? You're having a little joke." "I am not," cried Charlie, rushing up to the bed and holding out the large and beautiful golden ticket for him to see. Grandpa Joe leaned forward and took a close look, his nose almost touching the ticket. The others watched him waiting for the verdict. Then, very slowly, with a slow and marvelous grin spreading all over his face, Grandpa Joe lifted his head and looked straight at Charlie. Hurricane means a violent storm. Here it means entering quickly in an excited manner. Clatter means a loud noise like hard objects knocking together. Pulling our legs means joking. Verdict, a decision or an opinion about something after studying or testing it. Marvelous, extremely good, and wonderful. The color was rushing to his cheeks, and his eyes were wide open, shining with joy, and in the center of each eye, right in the very center, in the black pupil, a little spark of wild excitement was slowly dancing. Suddenly, with no warning whatsoever, he threw up his arms and yelled, "Yippee!" And at the same time, his bowl of soup went flying into the face of Grandma Josephine. And in one fantastic leap, the old fellow of 96 and a half, who hadn't been out of bed these last 20 years, jumped on the floor and started doing a dance of victory in his pajamas. "Yippee!" he shouted. 3 cheers for Charlie. Hip, hip, hooray! At this point, the door opened and Mr. Bucket walked into the room. He was cold and tired and he looked ill. All day long he had been shoveling snow in the streets. "What's going on in here?" It didn't take them long to tell him what had happened. "I don't believe it," he said. "It's not possible. Show him the ticket, Charlie," shouted Grandpa Joe, who was still dancing around the floor in his striped pajamas. "Show your father the 5th and the last golden ticket in the world." "Let me see it, Charlie," Mr. Bucket said, collapsing into a chair and holding out his hand. It was a very beautiful thing, this golden ticket, having been made, so it seemed, for the sheet of pure gold hammered. Pupil here, the small round black area at the center of an eye. Leap means a long or high jump, and shoveling means using a shovel to move something. Out, almost to the thinnest of paper. On one side of it, printed by some clever method in jet black letters, was the invitation itself from Mr. Wonka. "Read it aloud," said Grandpa Joe, climbing back into bed again at last. Mr. Bucket held the lovely golden ticket up close to his eyes. His hands were trembling slightly, and he seemed to be overcome by the whole busyness. He took several deep breaths, then he cleared his throat and said, "All right, I'll read it. Here we go. Greetings to you, the lucky finder of this golden ticket, from Mr. Willy Wonka. I shake you warmly by the hand. Tremendous things are in store for you. Many wonderful surprises await you. For now, I'd invite you to come to my factory and be my guest for one whole day, you and all others who are lucky enough to find my golden tickets. I, Willy Wonka, will conduct you around the factory myself, showing you everything that there is to see, and afterwards, when it is time to leave, you will be escorted home by a procession of large trucks. These trucks, I can promise you, will be loaded with enough delicious eatables to last you and your entire household for many years. If at any time thereafter you should run out of supplies, you have only to come back to the factory and show this golden ticket, and I shall be happy to refill your cupboard with whatever you want. In this way, you will be able to keep yourself supplied with tasty morsels for the rest of your life. But this is by no means the most exciting thing that will happen on the day of your visit. I am preparing other surprises that are even more marvelous and more fantastic for you and for all my beloved golden ticket holders. Just wait and see. And now, here are your instructions. The day I have chosen for the visit in the first day in the month of February. On this day and on no other, you must come to the factory gates at 10 o'clock sharp in the morning. Don't be late, and you are allowed to bring with you either one or two members of your own family to look after you and to ensure that you don't get into mischief. One more thing, be certain to have this ticket with you, otherwise you will not be admitted. Signed, Willy Wonka. Escorted means accompanied by somebody to protect them. Procession means a line of people or vehicles that move along slowly, and morsels means small amounts or pieces of something, especially food. The first day of February, cried Mrs. Bucket. But that's tomorrow. Today is the last day of January. I know it is. You are just in time, shouted Grandpa Joe. There's not a moment to lose. You must start making preparations at once. Wash your face, comb your hair, scrub your hands, brush your teeth, blow your nose, cut your nails, polish your shoes, iron your shirt, and for heaven's sake, get all that mud off your pants. You must get ready, my boy. You must get ready for the biggest day of your life. Now, don't overexcite yourself, Grandpa, Mrs. Bucket said, and don't fluster poor Charlie. We must all try to keep very calm. Now, the first thing to decide is who is going to go with Charlie to the factory. I will, shouted Grandma Joe, leaping out of the bed once again. I'll take him. I'll look after him. You leave it to me. Mrs. Bucket smiled at the old man. Then she turned to her husband and said, How about you, dear? Don't you think you ought to go? Mr. Bucket said gently, Mind you, I'd love to go. It'll be tremendously exciting. But on the other hand, I believe that the person who really deserves to go most of all is Grandpa Joe himself, provided, of course, that he feels well enough. Yippee! Shouted Grandpa Joe, seizing Charlie by the hands and dancing around the room. He certainly seems well enough, Mrs. Bucket said, laughing. Yes, perhaps Grandpa Joe should be the one to go with him. I certainly can't go myself and leave the other 3 old people all alone in bed for a whole day. At that point, there came a loud knock on the front door. Mr. Bucket went to open it. At the next moment, swarms of newspapermen and photographers were pouring into the house. They had tracked down the finder of the 5th golden ticket, and now they all wanted to get the full story for the front pages of the morning papers. It must have been nearly midnight before Mr. Bucket was able to get rid of them so that Charlie could go to bed. An extract from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. Roald Dahl was a British writer who wrote novels, short stories, and poetry. His stories are weird, funny, and full of mean adults and clever children, which makes the book very popular with children all over the world. Now read and answer. A1. Choose the correct options to answer these questions. Put a tick mark. 1. How many golden tickets were there? 5. 2. How many members were there in Bucket family? 7. 3. Who was going to accompany Charlie on his tour of the chocolate factory? Grandpa Joe. And 4. Who was the most excited on hearing about Charlie's golden ticket? Grandpa Joe. A2. Fill in the blanks to complete these sentences. Number 1. Charlie burst through the door calling his mother. Number 2. Grandpa Joe jumped on the floor and started doing a dance of victory. Number 3. The 5th golden ticket was an invitation from Mr. Willy Wonka. Answer the questions. We'll refer to the notebook and here. Read these words. Hear and listen. The highlighted word can be used interchangeably, but their meanings differ slightly. Hear means to be aware of sounds and listen means to attentively hear something. For example, I hear the siren of a police van. I listen to my teacher carefully. Now, read these words, advise and advise. The highlighted words sound alike, but their spellings are different. They are also different parts of speech. Advise is a noun and advise is a verb. Advise means guidance and advise means to guide. For example, Sahil advised Ritika not to waste her money and Sahil gave Ritika a piece of a good advice. Now, choose the correct options to fill in the blanks. Number 1. I bought a pen from a stationery store. Number 2. He creates an illusion of motion from a series of still pictures. Number 3. The pencil is made from wood and lead. Number 4. The joke was really amusing. B2. Make sentences using the given word pairs. So the pairs are and our. They are my friends. This is our home. Later. I'll talk to you again later. And in his later years, he became blind. Affect and effect. Smoking tobacco can affect your lungs and computers have had a profound effect on our lives. By and by. His wife was sitting by him and she wants to buy a new dress. Farther and further. It's farther away than I thought, and we need to research further into this matter. And the last one, 2 and 2. We are going to Mumbai next week and the soup is too hot. Now, language ladder. Read these sentences. Large trucks will be escorting you back home. The highlighted words indicate that something will occur in the future and continue for some time. The tense used to describe an action that will be in progress in the future is called the future continuous tense. It is also used to describe a future action that is already planned. For example, the school will be teaching special children during the summer holidays. Now study the given table to learn the structure of the future continuous tense. For positive, we will use subject, will or shall, be, verb plus ing, object. For negative, subject, will or shall, not be, verb plus ing, and object. Interrogative or positive, will, shall, subject, be, verb plus ing, and object, and question mark. And interrogative for negative, will, shall, subject, not be, verb plus ing, and object. Now study this table also carefully. As you can see, for future continuous, for positive, negative, interrogative, and interrogative, for first person, second person, and third person. You can see all of these in table. The next page. Match the columns to make sentences in the future continuous tense. Number 1, the children will be having great fun. 2, the dry land will be drinking in the rain. Number 3, the birds will be migrating to warm lands. And number 4, we shall be getting ready for a party. And number 5, the wind will be howling in the trees. Now C2. Fill in the blanks with the future continuous tense forms of the verbs in brackets. Number 1. What will you be doing tomorrow evening? Number 2. Will you be wearing a nice dress for the party? Number 3. I shall be watching television at 8 tonight. Number 4. He will be meeting his old school friends this weekend. And number 5. Shilpi will be studying for the English exam all night. Now, punctuation points. Read these sentences. Mr. Bucket said gently, mind you, I'd love to go. It'll be tremendously exciting. There is an omission of letters in the highlighted word. I'd is I would, and it will. Now read this sentence. Mrs. Bucket was in the old grandparents' room serving them their evening soup. The highlighted punctuation mark shows that the room belongs to the grandparents. An apostrophe is a punctuation mark. It is used to show position or the omission of letters in a word. Here are some rules to follow when using apostrophes to indicate positions. 1. For most singular nouns, add apostrophe plus s. For example, the girl's phone, the teacher's desk. Number 2. For most plural nouns, add only an apostrophe. For example, the girl's phone, the teacher's desk. And number 3. For plural nouns that do not end in s, add apostrophe plus s. For example, the children's playground and the mice's holes. And now, rewrite these sentences using apostrophe marks at the correct places. Number 1. Our school's principal couldn't come to show. Number 2. My doll's hair is black. Number 3. I've got a lot of work to finish. Number 4. These are teachers' computers. And number 5. I can't find the cats today. I can't find the cat's toy. And number 6, these are the girls' books. The question and answers. Question number 1. Why was Charlie so excited? Answer. Charlie was excited because he won the 5th golden ticket. Number 2. Why was everyone in the family in a state of disbelief? Answer. Everyone was in a state of disbelief because they thought it was very difficult to win the golden ticket and Charlie had won that ticket. Question number 3. What preparations did Grandpa Joe want Charlie to make? Grandpa Joe wanted Charlie to brush his teeth, polish his shoes, iron his shirt, cut his nails, wash his face, to get the mud off his pants, to scrub his hands, to comb his hair, and blow his nose. Number 4. Describe the golden ticket. Answer. The golden ticket was assumed to be made up of gold, which was hammered to make it as thin as paper. On one side of it was the invitation in jet black letters by Mr. Wonka. Few instructions were also mentioned like venue, day, and the date for the visit, number of family members to accompany the visitors. Question number 5. What did the newspaperman want? The newspaperman wanted to give the full story for the front page of the morning paper. And now think and answer. Number 1. Why do you think everyone wanted the 5th golden ticket? What was so special about it? Everyone wanted the 5th golden ticket because they would have a chance to visit the factory and they would get unlimited amounts of delicious eatables. Number 2. What kind of person was Mr. Willy Wonka? Mr. Willy Wonka was a kind and child-loving person. Now, evaluate. Charlie was really close to Grandpa Joe. Why it is important to respect and love elders. Share your thoughts with the class. It is important to respect and love elders because they care for us. They work hard every day to get money for our requirements. They are always there for us and they will do anything to give us a good life. So if you enjoyed my video, please do like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. God bless you all.